Welcome to this talk today on spiritual warfare. I trust you're enjoying ministry. It can be a real joy serving the Lord in this way, but let's face it, it can be hard work. And I'm reminded of the verse in Daniel chapter 7 where it says, Satan is out to wear out the saints. And of course we can feel worn out simply because of the emotional and spiritual pressures upon us, but sometimes there's that subtle attack of Satan and his workers seeking to pull us down. Now, Ephesians chapter 6 says this, Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armour of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. So when this passage talks about principalities and powers, it's talking about unseen rulers that can be over cities and over countries. Maybe you've sensed some of that if you've had the privilege of flying into a country. But we're not to fear about these things because we have victory in the Lord Jesus Christ. And that comes through the cross of Christ, where he disarmed principalities and powers. C.S. Lewis reminds us about something really important. There are two equal and opposite errors into which our race can fall about the devils. One is to disbelieve in their existence. The other is to believe and to feel an excessive and unhealthy interest in them. While I was at a theological college, I had an assignment to look after a church in the country. And so I was working down in the country, and a lady came to me one afternoon and said, Alan, I'd really like prayer. I think there's something holding me back from going on for the Lord. So I prayed for her. But normally, of course, today I'd have somebody else with me when I prayed for a lady in that way. And as I prayed for her, to my amazement, there was a guttural-type laugh that came up from within her stomach. And it really caught me by surprise, and I had a measure of fear. And I thought, this really must be a demon. And so I prayed with all the authority I could muster up. And then I stopped and quieted my spirit and said, Lord, what is going on here? And I felt the Lord said there's a spirit of mockery in her. And so with authority, I didn't shout and yell, but with authority, I quietly and firmly said to her, I command the spirit of mockery to go. And immediately she was set free. What a wonderful time that was for her. I've had the privilege of going to Kenya a couple of times. The first time there, I spoke on blessings and curses. And soon after the service, a senior pastor came to me and said, I thought you people in the West didn't believe in this sort of thing. I want to go over some observations about how Satan and his workers work. I don't want you to think if I say something that it rings a bell to you that it's necessarily Satan, because we live in a fallen world. But the first thing I want to mention is deception. In my first weekend of ministry, I was asked if another leader and I would go to speak to this couple. It was said that this lady had had an affair or was having an affair with somebody else, and we just wanted to clarify the situation. So we did that. We had a good talk, and I came back and I said to Pam, she's absolutely innocent. There's no problem about that. And then the phone rang, and there was evidence, conclusive evidence, that she was guilty. You see, I was taken in by her charm and beauty. We need to be aware of deception. Disunity is a problem we can have in our ministry. It could be that leaders argue over minor things that are unimportant, and they can grow and go right down through our organisation or church, and it can divide us. Then's the whole matter of fear, but I've already mentioned about that. And there's money. The love of money can be the root of all evil, and Satan can have a foothold in our life when that is the case. The whole area of sexuality can be a problem. Sexual attraction often doesn't come from the physical, but spiritual empathy, and it can move to the physical. If you don't deal with it, it can be a sitting time bomb. We need to watch out for pride. Satan was an angel, but he was so full of pride, he was expelled from heaven. And there are blessings and curses, and I've talked about that already. Discouragement can be a problem, can't it? Well, David found it a problem at times, and we find he encouraged himself in the Lord. How did he do that? Well, he was a musician, and he did write songs. So it could be that was the way he overcame discouragement. Sing and worship to the Lord. Again, thanks be to God who gives us the victory. So may God encourage you in your ministry. May you find enjoyment and may you experience protection. And so I have a link below. You're welcome to look at that link and you will find a paper on the subject.